Kia ora e te whānau. Okay, so I'm back, and yesterday I filmed making the cover. All I've done is put a little bit more lace on the spine. So before you sew your signatures, and if you're going to bead them, anything that you want on the spine, obviously put down first. So I've just glued that down because the stitches will help hold it there as well. Obviously this could also be used if you're not beading your signatures like we are today, to hide the signatures or help protect them as well. Okay, so obviously we are going to need a journal to bind. That's pretty obvious, but here's all the other things that we're going to need. So I have 2 magnets and a piece of paper here. Show you what those are for in a minute. Ruler, scissors, bit of PVA glue, some Fabri-Tac, templates. I make all my templates and then I keep them. So if I, for example, was going to make an A6 with a 7cm spine, but I wanted 4 or 5 signatures, I'd just do them in a different colour and I would hold on to that. That's just in a slightly heavier than paper, probably about cardstock. I haven't bored you, I did consider it with how I make those and do the measurements, but if I get enough comments and you guys do want to know how to do that, I'm more than happy to make a tutorial. It's pretty easy, just boring, so I didn't want to bore you too much. You're going to need some beads that you want to put on the spine. If I use large beads like this, I like to get nice flat ones, and alternatively ones that have quite a large hole if possible, but there is a workaround with that I always do anyway, which I'll show you how as well. 1 bulldog clip, 2 bulldog clips, I shall find my other one, and 4 large paper clips. These are worth getting. They're pretty cheap to get, as you can see. They are huge. I originally bought them to thinking I was just getting probably about a paper clip about that big. Not the case, but they've come in handy, like real handy. Obviously I just use embroidery string, 6-strand cotton, and a needle, and I use one that's quite, I don't know if you can see that, reasonable thickness, and it's got a nice large hole on the end, because there's nothing worse than trying to thread this embroidery string through and it splits and you get 2 through and then you start pulling it, and then it's just no, that's a whole bunch of no. Okay, so to get started, first thing I do is I get the embroidery cotton, and pushing this through beads is a nightmare. So a little trick that I came up with was I get a little bit of PVA glue and I put it on my finger, and I do notice that the tackier the better, because it seems the harder it dries. So just about that much, and then you want to put it probably about 3 or 4 centimeters, doesn't matter if you do a bit more, and you just want to twirl it so that you've got a nice pointy end on it, and then you're going to let that dry. I've already done 2 in preparation. I've been a good girl again with my preparation. Okay, so that's what the PVA was for. I can put that aside now. The magnets. Well, I'm working on my bed and things slide around. You might have a magnetic pin cushion. That's fine, but if you don't, 2 cheap magnets. I put the paper there, otherwise I'm not going to be able to see the magnet as well. I put 1 underneath and 1 on top. And that is for my needle. I can't tell you how many millions of needles I feel like I've lost, and that is not a good thing when you're working on your bed because eventually you find some of them. Okay, now next step, we're not going to need that immediately, so put these to the side as well, and hold up, I'll just get my other clip. There we go. Oh, and an awl, obviously. Need one of those. Pokey tool is what my brother calls it, because he can never remember it's called an awl, but because I did a dressmaking design degree, we use that all the time for pattern making. Okay, journal. Signature number 1. I don't think it matters at all whether you go through sewing the last one first, the middle one first, or the first one, front one in first. Whatever makes it easier for you. There's no hard and fast rule for that as far as I'm concerned. What we do need to do, first thing, and I bind them with all the pockets in there if there's nothing that's falling out. I just make sure I have the pages where I want them and that none of the folds have moved around, because quite often they do. And I like them all different levels anyway. I just want to make sure that they're not too low or too high. Okay, there we go. Little small signature. Now we want these folds to be as close together as we possibly can. Apologies for the stupid size of my ruler. I cannot for the life of me find my smaller one. So I'm just going to pop that in there so that all the spines are together. I am then going to put that clip on it. I'll take it out the other way, take that out, and then I want to get my paper clips and pop them on top, bottom, both sides. Honestly, these have been a game changer. I think I got them off AliExpress. I don't think I got these ones off Temu. Now, rule of thumb is, if when you're putting these on, the paperclip bends or warps, or your signature's probably too thick. Okay, so that's how I go with it. If your paperclip's doing this and it's not going down, then you've probably got too much in your signature anyway. I'm just going to readjust that. Make sure I'm holding those together nicely. And then see how nicely together those are when it closes. See, this one needs a little bit of a adjustment. Okay. How I choose my embroidery thread colour, by the way, is if I didn't have this on it, I probably would have chosen a brownie colour like this. But because I've stuck this on, I'm going to go with a colour that's more like this. You're not going to see it much anyway, considering I'm going to be beading it, but you are going to see it slightly going in and out of the holes. So the next step is I want to, with my awl, mark right in these crosses and just work the awl all the way through. I don't mind that it's a slightly bigger hole. That really helps to find it when you're working with the needle anyway. So I'll just fast forward this part. Okay, now that we have our signature holes, we need to pop them into this guy. And my spine's always a little bit taller usually than the majority of the pages, so I just make sure I've got an even amount there in that side. If it is slightly less, push it into that corner. Try and hold it so that you've got a little bit of a V. Then it will go through the absolute corner of your folds rather than through the middle fold and then out the side of the one that's at the front. And I'm just using, I'll show you my markings here that I've made that correspond exactly to those dots. Okay, so I've just got little marks that I'm following with the awl. Okay, so now I have my PVA ended thread. No, I don't knot off my embroidery thread. I just chuck a big fat bulldog clop in it. Through the middle first. Make sure I've got my journal around the right way. Do you know how many times I have sewn these things in upside down? That drives me nuts, especially when it's got beading on it, just saying. Okay, so now we've got that far. Now I need to decide how many beads will fit on here. So I use the template and I just line them up on here. I don't want them over. Slightly under is fine. Over, no. Okay, and I usually, if I'm going to use these bigger beads, I'll put them in the center signature and have smaller rows on the outside. So I like these, and these are just off Temu. Like I say, most of my hardware comes from Temu, other than like buttons and things, which I find vintage finds. So I might just grab a couple of those, and I really like these as well. These are just all different sized brass beads. I'd probably use those for so in the middle here I might go from, and this isn't going to work, is it, because I'm on a bed. So I might just go one of those to the next size down, to the next size down, and we'll see. Yeah, I think that'll fit. And then I might just go one more either side of that smaller one, and then an even smaller one on the end. This isn't really that important. I mean, you can choose whatever beads you want that fit. So this is where the PVA comes in. Helpful. So I take it out of my needle. Don't do it, Sara-Lee. Put your needle on your magnet. Oh, where's it gone? The story of my life. Now I can't find the magnet. Okay, it can live there for a second. This makes it super easy to thread. So the only thing you got to think about is kind of going backwards. One way you've got to thread this one on first, and sometimes if you've got a different pattern you've got to start the other end of your bead pattern. But see how tiny that is? Can you see that? But you can get it on there because you have a PVA ended. So hopefully, if nothing else, you get that much out of this video and that you haven't seen it before. God, I'm throwing beads everywhere. I never do this. It's because I'm on camera, you see. Okay, so I am literally threading beads, so I'll speed this up for you. Okay, so then we are going to see how we are going for fit. And because it's quite hard to see the holes through here, obviously, it's probably going to be easier to line it up and just have a look at how many more we can fit on. So yes, I can still fit on one more of those, and And yep, I think I'll just get away with putting those 2 small ones on the end so that it's nice and symmetrical as well. So again, I'll fast forward this. Okay, so just checking. Yeah, that'll be fine. If you go further past, you can still tighten these. The beads will make it that they're tighten. It just means that the beads will warp. It doesn't mean that your signatures will be looser, because these beads can't go through the holes. It just means that it'll be slightly loose on here, which isn't a terrible thing. I'm not too fussed by that when it happens. Okay. So pop the needle back through. Then we need to find, now this is tricky, finding the hole through the lace, but I like the lace, so I can't really do without it. Okay, so I've sewn in the first signature. I've just re-paper clipped the second one. I've done the holes. Made a bit of a boo-boo on the first signature, which is why I have probably cut some of that out. Never done it before. Have sewn them in backwards or upside down before, but never what I did. I ended up taking the thread through one of the signature holes, so I'm just going to do this again so that I have actually shown you the process, because I will have deleted that first one so that I didn't confuse anybody. If you used to do jewellery making, you could line them up a lot easier than the way I did it. So I just want to check that that's not too long. And I think it is going to be, oh, no, that'll be all right. Might have a little bit of slack, but that's okay. All right, so pull this guy into here. Grab my needle that I did not put on the magnet. I should really follow my own advice. I'm going to lose another needle on the bed and I'm going to find it in the middle of the night. Okay, so we've gone through the middle. Now we need to go, this is what I didn't do last time, just see where that hole is. Through here and through the signature. And then up through that one. There's, like I said, there's plenty of tutorials that probably explain it a lot better than I do, of how to do this part. It's just the holding it together, etc. That now I'm just going to check that because I want to know. Yeah, that's not too bad. I want it about as tight as a guitar string. Then I'm going to take the needle off again, and I'm just going to do this exact same pattern, So I will fast forward this for you. You don't need to see me stringing beads on. Okay, now that I've actually sewn this in correctly, so I just want to make sure that I've got one string this side and one string this side of the central knot. I want to hold them together, and I just wrap them around my fingers and give them a really good tug together, because they're stronger that way and you're less likely to break the thread. And then I always check the back just to make sure one's not strangely looser than the other. Give it one more tug and then tie 2 knots. And then I tie one with the 2 threads like that, and to get it down to the bottom, I just put my needle right at the bottom of that thread, take that knot down as close as I can before I pull that thread out, and then to tighten it. And that's about as close as I can get my knots to the 2 knots that I tie initially. Then we take our paper clips off, and we've got 2 signatures sewn in already. See, I mean, she's pretty full that way already, but see, there you go, you've got beads on the side. So I'm just going to go and do the 3rd one, but I hope that video helped you figure out the easiest way to put beads on, and hopefully there's another couple of little tricks. I've got to say that was the first time that I had used the ruler in between the signatures. To be honest, I'm just going to go back to the way that I did it before, which was, I'll just show you. I usually just literally hold that in there with my fingernail and put one up there, then do the same this end and pop that on that end. I mean, it is fiddly, it's never going to be super simple, is it? It's one of those jobs that, like someone said on the comments, it's satisfying once it's done, but it's never something that you're like, oh yay, I get to sew in my signatures next, is it? Okay, so there you go. That would be usually how I would secure those with paper clips, and then I'm just going to put 3 holes in them, do exactly the same thing that I've done the last time. Yeah, so have fun with that. I hope it encourages you to give that a try if you want to, and I'd love to see your photos, so feel free to drop me a message with one of my contacts on the bio if you try this for the first time. Okay guys, as always, thank you so much for your lovely comments and support. You're amazing. You make my day if I'm having a bad day at work or something's upset me, I just read through a couple of my comments and get my mojo back. So I honestly, I don't know what I'd do without you. And thank you for finding me, and thank you for staying. And until next time when I'm doing these 3 journal flip throughs, and the reason why I'm doing that is because I've had a lot of people say that they have missed out, or it sells before they get a chance, or that they would really love one of my journals but they can't afford the larger ones. So I thought, well, I'll make 3 little ones, put them all up together, and hopefully there'll be something for a few more people. And they're going to be almost half the price, but I've got to take into account the postage as well, which is horrific from New Zealand. It's about 120 to America, so I factored that into the price so that you don't have to pay shipping on top. So yeah, there you go. See you soon for the 3 journal flip through of these 3 little babies of mine. Okay guys, till next time, love you as always. Bye.